A strange pattern shows up again and again when you look at people who quietly build lasting wealth. By the time everyone notices them, the hardest part is already over. The business is established. The investments have been compounding for years. The freedom they're enjoying wasn't created overnight. It was protected long before anyone thought to pay attention. Yet we're taught almost the opposite. Everywhere you look, success is treated like something that has to be announced. A promotion becomes a social media post. A new car becomes proof that you're moving up. A bigger house becomes evidence that you've made it. Somewhere along the way, looking successful became just as important as becoming successful. But what if that's exactly where the trap begins? Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't writing about stock portfolios or retirement accounts. He was studying power. He wanted to understand why some people gained influence while others lost it, even when they appeared equally capable. One lesson appears throughout his thinking. What people see is often less important than what they don't. That idea doesn't only apply to politics. It applies to money. Because wealth isn't just about earning more. It's about protecting your ability to keep building when nobody is watching. The moment your financial progress becomes part of your public identity, something subtle changes. Expectations appear. Comparisons begin. Pressure replaces patience. Think about someone who receives their first significant raise. One person quietly increases their investments and keeps living almost the same life. Another upgrades everything people can see. From the outside, the second person looks more successful. 10 years later, the first person may have far more freedom, even if almost nobody noticed the journey. That's the uncomfortable part. Recognition feels rewarding because our brains are wired to seek approval. It gives us a sense of progress before the real work is finished. But approval can become a substitute for achievement. Once people admire the image you've created, maintaining that image starts consuming the energy that should have been invested in building something real. This video isn't about hiding because you're afraid of success. It's about understanding that silence can be a strategy. Sometimes the greatest advantage isn't making people believe you're winning. It's giving yourself enough space to actually win. We'll explore 10 brutal rules inspired by Machiavelli's way of thinking, not as moral commandments, but as practical observations about human behavior, power, and money. Each one reveals why those who quietly accumulate assets often end up with something far more valuable than status, lasting independence. And that raises a question worth sitting with. If silence gives such a powerful advantage, why do so many intelligent, ambitious people feel an almost irresistible need to prove they're succeeding before they've actually secured their future? Think about two people who earn exactly the same salary. They work in similar jobs, receive similar bonuses, and started their careers at roughly the same time. Yet 5 years later, their lives look completely different. One celebrates every milestone. The new watch appears online the day it's bought. The luxury apartment is carefully photographed. Friends begin to expect expensive dinners, generous gifts, and a lifestyle that keeps climbing. Success has become part of this person's identity. And now that identity has to be maintained. The other person is almost invisible. They still drive a reliable car. They rarely talk about money. Raises quietly become investments. Side income disappears into assets instead of attention. From the outside, they don't seem nearly as successful. But appearances can be remarkably misleading. This is where recognition becomes dangerous. It feels like fuel, but it often turns into a substitute for progress. Once people start seeing you as successful, you're tempted to keep proving them right. Decisions slowly shift from, will this make me wealthier, to does this match the image I've created? Machiavelli understood that visibility always comes with expectations. The more attention you attract, the less freedom you have to move without being judged. The same principle applies to money. Quiet builders can change plans, make mistakes, and think years ahead because they aren't performing success for anyone else. A simple habit can protect you from this trap. The next time you reach a financial milestone, resist the urge to announce it. Let the satisfaction come from seeing your net worth grow, not your reputation. Private progress compounds in ways public applause never can. But if keeping your victories quiet creates such a powerful advantage, why do so many ambitious people willingly trade long-term wealth for the short-lived feeling of looking successful? A small business owner has their first exceptional year. Cash finally starts flowing, and suddenly they have two choices. They can buy the luxury SUV everyone expects, move into a bigger office and prove they've made it. Or they can quietly pour that same money back into the business, hire better people, improve systems, and let those investments generate even more income. One choice earns admiration today. The other buys freedom tomorrow. That's the difference between wealth and status. Status asks, what will people think of me? Wealth asks, what will this decision be worth 5 years from now? The purchase itself is rarely the problem. The real cost is becoming responsible for an image that gets more expensive every year. Machiavelli understood that appearances can be useful, but they become dangerous when you start serving them instead of controlling them. The moment your lifestyle is designed to impress others, you've handed strangers a vote in your financial decisions. A simple filter changes everything. Before buying something expensive, don't ask whether you can afford it. Ask whether it increases your future leverage or simply increases your visibility. That single question can protect years of compounding. And once you stop chasing status, another question naturally takes its place. If recognition isn't the prize, what should you be building instead? Power has always belonged to the person who reveals the least while understanding the most. Rulers throughout history didn't broadcast every plan because information itself was an advantage. Once intentions became public, rivals could adapt, interfere, or negotiate from a stronger position. Money works the same way. The moment people know what you earn, what you've invested, or what you're planning to build, their behavior changes. Expectations rise. Advice becomes unsolicited. Some people compete with you. Others quietly count on your resources. Without realizing it, you've allowed your financial life to influence someone else's decisions, and theirs to influence yours. Strategic privacy isn't about secrecy or distrust. It's about protecting your focus. Not every promotion, investment, or financial goal needs an audience. The fewer opinions attached to your plans, the easier it becomes to execute them on your own terms. Set clear boundaries around your income, investments, and long-term ambitions. Treat that information as carefully as you treat your capital, because both can either compound or be diminished by careless exposure. But even protected plans have one enemy that no amount of privacy can eliminate: your own impatience. When markets fall, one group rushes for the exit while another quietly starts buying. Both are looking at the same numbers, but they're making completely different decisions. The difference isn't intelligence, it's patience. Compounding has an unusual habit. It rewards people who can stay calm while everyone else feels urgency. Fast decisions often satisfy emotions. Patient decisions build positions that become valuable years later. Before making any major financial move, create distance between the impulse and the action. Give yourself time to ask whether you're reacting to temporary emotion or responding to a genuine opportunity. That short pause can save years of regret and uncover opportunities that panic always hides. The greatest advantage rarely belongs to the person who moves first. It belongs to the one who knows when not to move. But patience alone isn't enough. Under real pressure, something far more dangerous than impatience begins to take control: your emotions. A negotiation can fall apart long before anyone says no. One person hears an offer, feels insulted, and immediately pushes back harder than they planned. Another stays calm, asks one more question, and walks away with better terms. The difference isn't intelligence. It's the ability to keep emotion from taking control at the exact moment pressure appears. Money has a way of exposing feelings we often don't notice. Fear rushes you into selling too early. Greed convinces you that one more risky move can't hurt. Envy makes someone else's lifestyle feel like a deadline for your own success. Pride whispers that changing your mind would look weak, even when the numbers say otherwise. Those emotions rarely announce themselves. They simply disguise themselves as good decisions. This is why emotional control is a financial skill, not just a personal one. If someone can predict your reactions, they can predict your choices. In negotiations, the person who appears desperate usually gives away the better deal. In investing, the person who reacts to every headline often ends up buying high and selling low. Pressure doesn't create character. It reveals what was already there. A simple habit can protect you from expensive mistakes. Before making a major purchase, accepting an offer, changing jobs, or placing an investment, create a pause. Step away for a few hours, or even a day if possible. When the emotional noise fades, ask yourself one question. Would I make this same decision if nobody knew about it tomorrow? That small delay often separates impulse from strategy. Mastering your emotions gives you an edge, but another challenge remains. Even the calmest mind becomes vulnerable when it's surrounded by influences designed to pull it off course. Think about how many financial decisions you make without realizing someone else helped make them. Not by giving advice, but simply by setting the atmosphere around you. A conversation about someone's new car, a social media feed filled with luxury vacations, friends who celebrate every purchase, but never talk about saving or investing. After a while, those messages stop feeling like influence. They start feeling normal. That's why motivation fades so quickly. You can promise yourself you'll spend less, invest more, and stay disciplined. But if your environment rewards the opposite behavior every single day, eventually willpower gets tired. The environment keeps working long after motivation has gone home. Now compare two different circles. In one, every raise becomes an excuse to upgrade a lifestyle. Bigger apartment, new watch, more expensive dinners. Success is measured by what can be seen. In the other, people quietly ask different questions. What did you learn? What are you building? Where are you investing next? The incomes might be identical, yet 10 years later, their lives look completely different. Not because one group worked harder, but because each environment rewarded a different habit. The same principle applies when you're alone. The accounts you follow, the videos you watch, the headlines you read, even the notifications on your phone are constantly suggesting what deserves your attention. Some push urgency, comparison, and consumption. Others reinforce patience, learning, and long-term thinking. Your daily inputs become tomorrow's instincts. This means changing your financial future doesn't always begin with earning more. Sometimes it begins with changing what surrounds you. Take an honest look at your routines. Which relationships encourage thoughtful decisions? And which quietly pressure you to keep up? Which digital habits leave you feeling focused, and which leave you wanting things you never cared about an hour earlier? You don't need to cut everyone off or disappear from the world. You simply need to become intentional. Protect your attention the way you protect your money, because attention is usually spent first. Build routines that make investing automatic, reduce unnecessary temptation, and spend more time with people who admire discipline more than display. When the right behaviors become the easiest behaviors, consistency stops feeling like a struggle. Silent wealth isn't built by winning one heroic battle against temptation. It's built by living in an environment where the best decisions become the default ones. And once you've created that kind of environment, a deeper question naturally begins to surface. If you finally achieve wealth on your own terms, what is it really meant to give you? By this point, the pattern should be impossible to ignore. Every rule has been pointing toward the same destination, but from a different angle. Stay quiet. Stay patient. Guard your attention. Control your emotions. Build instead of broadcasting. None of those habits exist just to help you earn more money. They exist to reduce the number of people and circumstances that can control your decisions. That changes the definition of wealth completely. It's easy to believe that success looks like a larger house, a faster car, or a lifestyle that constantly announces itself. But every visible upgrade can create an invisible obligation. A larger payment, a higher monthly cost, more expectations from other people, more pressure to keep earning at the same pace. What looks like freedom from the outside can quietly become dependence from the inside. History offers a different lesson. The people who shaped events were often not the loudest people in the room. They accumulated influence by owning assets, controlling resources, and making themselves difficult to pressure. Public attention came and went. Ownership remained. The same pattern exists today. Many of the people with the greatest financial influence live far below what they could afford. Not because they lack ambition, but because they understand that every unnecessary expense trades away a piece of future choice. Choice is the asset that rarely appears on a balance sheet. When you own productive assets instead of constantly upgrading your lifestyle, you gain options. You can leave a bad job without panic. You can wait for a better investment instead of chasing the first opportunity. You can negotiate without desperation because your next decision isn't being dictated by next month's bills. That's leverage in its purest form. Not power over other people, but power over your own circumstances. There's another advantage that's even quieter. The fewer people who depend on your image, the fewer enemies you create. Status invites comparison. Comparison invites competition. Competition often creates conflict that serves no purpose. Silent ownership avoids much of that. It allows your energy to stay focused on building instead of defending. Look closely at your financial goals for a moment. Which ones are actually yours? And which ones were borrowed from someone else's definition of success? If no one could ever see your house, your watch, your clothes, or your car, would you still want them as much? That's an uncomfortable question, but it reveals whether you're buying freedom or buying approval. This doesn't mean avoiding comfort or pretending money doesn't matter. Wealth should improve your life. It should reduce unnecessary stress. It should create opportunities for the people you care about. But those benefits come from ownership, resilience, and flexibility far more than they come from display. As you plan your finances from this point forward, try measuring success differently. Instead of asking, "What can I afford?" ask, "What will this purchase make me dependent on?" Instead of chasing the highest income, consider how much control that income actually gives you. Build investments that produce choices. Build savings that buy patience. Build skills that no market can easily take away. Build a life that continues working even when nobody is watching. That is the quiet endgame. Own more than you consume. Need less than you earn. Give as few people as possible the power to influence your next move. When your happiness no longer depends on applause, your financial decisions become clearer, calmer, and stronger. In the end, Machiavelli's greatest lesson about wealth may have nothing to do with money itself. It is that the person who cannot be easily manipulated is already richer than the person who owns more, but must constantly protect an image. So here's the question worth carrying with you long after this video ends. If silence has protected your progress all along, what would your life look like if nobody needed to know you were winning? You may have noticed something surprising. Very little of this journey was actually about money. It was about the decisions that money exposes. Every purchase reveals a priority. Every investment reflects a mindset. Every financial habit quietly answers one question: who is really in control of your choices? That is the lesson hidden beneath Machiavelli's reputation. His greatest insight was never that people should manipulate others. It was that people who understand incentives are far less likely to be manipulated themselves. When you recognize how status, urgency, fear, and approval shape behavior, you stop reacting to the game and start seeing the rules behind it. That's why real wealth looks different from what we're often taught. It's not measured by the car that turns heads or the house that earns admiration. Those things can be owned while the owner remains trapped by debt, expectations, or the constant need to maintain an image. Freedom works in the opposite direction. It lowers dependence. It increases options. It gives you the ability to walk away from bad opportunities, unhealthy relationships, and decisions made under pressure. Think about the people who quietly accumulate influence over decades. They often own assets instead of attention. They protect their time instead of displaying their schedules. They build systems that keep working when nobody is watching. Their confidence doesn't come from proving they have won. It comes from knowing they no longer need permission to make the next move. That changes the way you plan your future. Instead of asking whether something looks successful, ask whether it makes you harder to control. Does this investment create more choices? Does this career move strengthen your independence? Does this expense buy lasting value, or is it simply buying a moment of recognition that quickly disappears? A simple habit can reshape years of financial decisions. Before every major purchase, investment, negotiation, or career change, pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I increasing my freedom, or simply increasing what others can see? That single question separates decisions driven by strategy from decisions driven by ego. Over time, those quiet choices begin to compound, not just into a larger portfolio, but into a different kind of life. One where your emotions are calmer because your finances are stronger. One where your opportunities expand because your obligations shrink. One where your future depends more on your preparation than on someone else's approval. In the end, the greatest advantage isn't becoming richer than everyone around you. It's becoming so financially grounded that fewer people can influence your decisions at all. That is the kind of leverage that survives changing markets, changing trends, and changing opinions. The loudest fortunes often fade with attention. The strongest fortunes are built so quietly that by the time the world notices, the game has already been won.